Plate with a single fruit in the center. A peach, an apple, an orange. As I read and prayed the text offered to us by the liturgy this Sunday, this was the first image that came to me. An image that is both powerful and full of symbolism, but also so simple and familiar. At my in-law's house, throughout the seasons, we find from time to time a small plate with a single piece of fruit on the kitchen table where we usually have family meals. When this piece of fruit stands out in the middle of the table, we all know what it is. The children immediately show joy and excitement. It's the first fruits. Indeed, in the yard surrounding the house there are many fruit trees. Each first fruit of the season always deserves a celebration and a special welcome. It is placed in the center of the table and awaits a moment when the family is gathered to be tasted and savored together. It's up to the children, usually the youngest in the family, to taste the first fruit, but everyone ends up trying a small piece. Having grown in an urban setting, I'm always amazed by this moment of sharing and thanksgiving for what the Creator and creation offer us in a renewed form every season. The Sunday we are celebrating now coincides happily this year with the World Day of Prayer for Creation and the beginning of the season of creation. In fact, the season of creation begins each year on the 1st of September and ends on the 4th of October with the solemnity of Saint Francis of Assisi. This ecumenical time invites us to renew our relationship with the Creator and all of creation through a journey of conversion, celebration, and individual and collective commitment. This year's theme for the season of creation is to hope and act with creation. And the theological reflection is based on the St. Paul's letter to the Romans, which portrays the earth as a mother groaning in childbirth. Indeed, the times we live in show that we are not relating to the earth as a gift from our Creator, but rather as a resource to be used. The groaning of the earth denounces the suffering that creation and so many people are going through as a result of overexploitation and climate change. And yet, there is expectation for a better future. And yet, there is hope, as the same biblical text reveals, and the graphic symbol of the season of creation captures so beautifully this year by referring to the first fruits of hope. The letter of St. James from this Sunday's liturgy also takes up the idea of first fruits, which has so much power and symbolism in the Bible, from the Old Testament up to the letters addressed to the first Christian communities. Throughout the history of the Hebrew people, first fruits have always occupied a special place, being dedicated to God. St. James goes even further in this reading when he writes, "He willed to give us birth by the word of truth, that we may be a kind of first fruits of his creatures." Each and every one of us, each and every person is the Creator's beloved first fruits. If one possible reading of this phrase takes us back to the responsibility that falls on us as humanity and those primarily responsible for caring for our common home, I like to look at this expression of first fruits of his creatures as a reminder that all creation comes from God, and that we are brothers and sisters in creation, as Saint Francis of Assisi beautifully makes us realize in his Canticle of the Creatures. To be a first fruit is also to welcome the Word of God into our lives and into our hearts. In this Sunday's Gospel, Jesus once again calls for a conversion of heart. Clinging to precepts, rules, and practices without a conversion of heart is often a dangerous and sterile path, as Jesus points out in this Gospel when speaking to the Pharisees and scribes and addressing the crowd. Indeed, we need an ongoing ecological conversion of our hearts. What concrete steps can I take to deepen my ecological conversion? Spend more time contemplating nature? Let my heart suffer with those impacted by climate change? Change my lifestyle and consumption habits? Denounce structural sins against creation? St. James also leaves us with a very concrete challenge when he tells us, be doers of the word, not hearers only, deluding yourselves. Let us not be fooled by the feeling of being overwhelmed, by thinking that what we do is worthless or that we are alone. We are invited to hope and act with creation. And hope in the biblical context doesn't mean to stand still and quiet, but rather groaning, crying, and actively striving for new life. Just as in childbirth, we go through a period of intense pain, but new life springs forth. It's not enough for us to be listeners. In Hebrew, the word for first fruit is bikurim, and the literal translation of which is promise that comes. We are first fruits. We are the coming promise of a greater promise and hope. Only when we work together and united with God and creation can the first fruits of hope be born. As my children approach the first fruits on my in-laws' table with eagerness, let us also begin this season of creation with joy.